what's up? Thanks so much for tuning into the I'm Just Bougie channel where we just kiki about life, politics. We just kick it. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at OG_Shug Avery. Now let's get into this content. All right, so I know, here we go, we are back into it. So I know my videos have been sporadic, but there's just so much going on with life in general. And YouTube isn't life, right? So the reality is that we are emotionally going through a lot when it comes to our personal lives, when it having to deal with all this racism and the protests that we see on TV, right? Because if you are a human being, you have feelings, and if you're Black, you understand and you feel every story that's being told. You can hear what I'm saying? So it's a lot to get on here and kind of try to talk about some of these topics, and or even talk about the celebrity stuff, because it's like, how much energy can I really give to Nene when you have families having to give testimony on TVs? You know what I mean? Like, really. That's just me personally. Like, if you've been following me and you've been, you know my podcast that I was doing and all that other stuff, then you know that, like, I cover celebrity stuff, but it's something I dive deep into. I like talking like real shit like that happens in everyday life and how it affects us and how it ties into our life. I'll use celebrity situations to tie it into everyday life, because I always feel like, at the celebrity level, that they go through the same things that we do, right? So I don't put them on a pedestal, right? That you are able to critique these people because they are people just like you, and they're not perfect, so you don't have higher expectations for people because of wealth. And that's just me in general. But that's my little explanation on why, sporadically I've been putting out videos, because they kind of sometimes, like I said, everything that's going on, it can be kind of draining, and it leads down different rabbit holes with certain situations. I did a video the other day about Carol, the woman the woman who lost her job. Damn, did I forget her? In Buffalo. That hits home for me. You know what I'm saying? When someone lies on you and losing your job, because I've had that done before. So for me, it's just like, it's tough for me to sometimes, not say it's tough, but I understand that it's draining, and that it puts you in kind of in a bad place. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, like, it puts you in a bad place in the sense of, like, you end up thinking about some things and blah, 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 blah. So for me, it's like, okay, to avoid some of that rabbit hole-ish, pull back a little bit, right? Not at that point where I want to talk about some things yet. So you do pull back. No, that's just the God's honest truth. You just pull back. So I decided, though, I wanted to get on today and talk about the mother who blasts the Baltimore restaurant for denying her Black son entry for wearing athletic gear. Wearing athletic gear. So I wanted to do this one because it stood out to me, right? It's not too deep, but it's a reality of being Black in America. And with being Black in America and raising a Black daughter or raising a Black son, this falls under, like, as a parent, when you're teaching your child and you're teaching them and having to, because what a lot of white people are having to understand now, we have to have different type of conversations with our children, and specifically our Black men, because of what we've seen with the George Floyds, Tamir Rice, with Eric Gardner. What we've seen, they're the most endangered for us, right? So our conversations with them are a little bit different, but this is just sad overall, because now this child, this woman's 9-year-old son, it's a reality now, right? Because there's one thing hearing your parents say it. I remember being young, hearing your parents say something and be like, oh my God, you're old, whatever. And you kind of brush it off and just think it doesn't even apply to right now. But her 9-year-old son, 9, has now got the reality of what race in America and is, right? And how it feels to be discriminated in your face. You know what I'm saying? This is a hard lesson, and this is 9 years old. And I'm going to keep saying 9 years old because I grew up in the suburbs, you know what I mean? And I grew up around a lot of white people. And with that being said, there's no 9-year-old in the suburbs having to deal with their identity and being made feel something about the color of their skin, right? That innocence that we always talk about as African Americans, that our children aren't afforded that same luxury as white kids, to stay pure, stay young, you know what I mean? Very early, in some situations with a lot of African American kids, life is hard and they get it very early. They also get the concept of racism and discrimination very early. And so just to see that, for her 9-year-old son, I'm pretty sure he's watching TV like the rest of us, but to then know, like, oh my God, it's real, right? So that part of his pureness, that part of his innocence is gone, right? Because he now has to be aware of his presence and how it makes white people feel when he enters a room. At 9 years old, this is a lesson that he has been taught. All right, so let's get into the story. So this is I am on, where am I? I'm on Instagram and I'm on the Shade Room. And so it says, mother blasts Baltimore restaurant for denying her black son entry for wearing athletic gear. Manager placed on indefinite leave. So I'm going to put the video at the end of this video. So here we go. A Baltimore mother is heartbroken after her 9-year-old son experienced race-related discrimination firsthand over the weekend at a restaurant in their city. Marcia Grant says she and her son, Dallas, had plans to dine at Ozu Bay in the city's Harbor East area, but were turned away because he was wearing a basketball shorts and a Jordan t-shirt. Marcia, who shared her experience via her social media directly, asked the manager why her black son was being denied entry when they could see a young white boy dining in the restaurant wearing basically the same thing. Hold on, let me scroll this down. Wearing the same thing. Marcia reveals that eventually they left. We had to leave. They would not let my son in, she tells us. He's 9 years old. It was so hard for him. He goes to a school that's 70% white. They always teach the kids that they are the same. It was really hard for Dallas to see a kid that looks like one of his friends at school sit and eat there, and he couldn't. And that's what I'm saying. Like, now this kid has to see the world completely different because of this experience. And that breaks my heart, because as you sit back and you think of Dr. Martin Luther King, I had a dream, one day my kids and your kids and all that other stuff. And this kid is living that life, right? In his mind, before this incident, he's at a predominantly white school. He has white friends. Like, for him, he sees what's happening on TV, but it's not part of his reality because it's not what he's experienced, right? His friends love him. His teachers love him. They treat him fine. So he has this false sense of maybe that this is what the world is like, right? It's just confusing. You're watching TV and then you have this false sense of that you think your world is everyone's accepting, everyone's loving, there's no racism. And then to get hit with it, it's like, it's probably going to be really difficult for him now, because now he's going to probably end up start noticing things that he probably never even played a part in his mind. But that's not even to say that it wasn't happening. But this 9-year-old kid now can put context to some things that probably be like, is that why you're treating me different? You know what I'm saying? Like, now he has it. Like, now he gets it. And that's so sad. That's so sad. I mean, it's reality, but I just hope, I wish that for our black kids that reality doesn't sit into later. But yeah, around 9 years old, 10 years old, that's the harsh truth of being black in America. We start learning real life real early. All right, let me read the last part. It was really hard for Dallas to see a kid that looked like one of his friends at school sit and eat there, and he couldn't. The manager had a hard time answering Marcia's questions and even suggested if they lived nearby, go home and have Dallas change. The company that owns Ozu, Atlas Restaurant Groups, responded Monday evening, revealing the manager has since been, okay, and that's where it ends. But, in the title it says placed on indefinite leave. So basically they fired him. But my whole thing, this is where I will always say, and I've said this in my personal life and I'll say it again. I'm one of those people that's had bad experiences places, I like restaurants, or I've worked somewhere and had a bad experience with the employer. I always feel, and I'm a firm believer, you always look to the top, and even when it comes to like race relations and things that happen in America, this is hard. A lot of governors, a lot of mayors. I remember in March, the mayor of New Orleans said, I would have canceled Mardi Gras if we had a consistent message from the federal level and our president that said that, there's a problem going on, right? There's a problem and we need to act on it fast, right? She said, I would have jumped on board and did what I have to. But she said, for something that Mardi Gras that's been going on my entire life before I was born, and for me to kind of jump out the bag and do something and going against the federal government and a president that my constituents voted for, that's a big leap. That's a big, to ask me to walk out. I say all that to say, to tie that back into this restaurant and employees on these jobs or in these restaurants. A lot of time when you meet an employee like this guy at this restaurant, it goes to the top. It goes to the top for me, because there's something that empowered this man to feel like this was okay, right? I don't think this was the first time that this ever happened, because your response is so immediate. It's so immediate to get this woman out of this restaurant. It's so he felt like he was talking to policy. That's my problem. And that's why I'm saying that it goes to the top, because he really feels like he's doing the right thing based on the policy, probably based on what he's been taught by somebody else. So yes, I see the restaurant owner group came out and said he's no longer going to be there. But, a lot of times that's the Band-Aid. I don't look at the smaller fish in situations. And even in fucking real life, I just don't look at the smaller fish. If I have a problem, I've had situations, I've had a problem at a job, and I may feel some sort of way about what happened because of my coworkers, how they treated me. But I promise you, I always land at management, because what a manager will allow, it will happen, basically. You get what I'm saying? So, it all starts at the management level, because your management is to require that this such and such doesn't happen. So for me, when it comes to this restaurant, it's the ownership. It's I don't know what, if he didn't seem to me, I'll be completely honest, he didn't look like he was the restaurant manager. He looked like he may have been a shift manager, which those are two different things. So whatever tone that I feel like this manager is setting, and has been setting in this restaurant, or previous managers have been setting, it kind of cosigns to this man's actions. Because at some point, if this is the case, another manager would have came by and intervened. You get what I'm saying? The employees would come out and say something. But this has been standard practice. This is what they do. And I also want to say this, because I think it's really important. As we become more conscious, it just seems like everything is about consciousness now, which I love. So there's so much to listen to. But with that being said, as conscious as we are, and we talk about playing your part, people want to call out celebrities and tell them that they should do more. We also have to, as just regular everyday citizens, do our part. And it seems like everyone thinks that they don't have a part in this everything that is changing when it comes to race relations and all that. So I say that to say that if you're an employee at a department stores or any of these other stuff, understand what you're being asked to do sometimes in terms of racism, right? And you can be Black and be required to participate in racism and not know that that's exactly what's going on, right? So when you go into a store and the Black employees are watching you and they're following you around and all this other stuff or stuff like that, I don't know if they understand that you're playing a part in this, right? Because you yourself is it's tough. You're Black, but you're also harassing another Black person because of your preconceived thoughts of how you may even see your own people, right? So you do play a part in the systematic racism and the oppression of your own people, because you can't check yourself to know that this is not right. That on my own, I am what's the word? I am cautious of a Black person being in my store. I'm looking at them, making sure that they're not stealing. Then you are a part of the problem too, and you got to check yourself, right? Do you equally look that long at a white person who's shopping? Do you overly ask them, do they need help, right? So you are coming off as part of the problem, right? And so that doesn't mean because you're black that you're not a part of the problem. A lot of people in these jobs, you can be black and be a part of the problem. So all I can say, just be vigilant to make sure that as you become more woke, that you also reevaluate your own thoughts, your own beliefs, the way you move, and figure out, how do I am I participating in this, right? Am I part of the problem, basically? And there's also some police officers that have to sit back and wonder, have I been part of the problem because I've allowed my silence to just be that silent, right? I've been going with the flow for oh so long. So police officers most definitely have to sit back now and reevaluate, how do I move forward? I'm going to lose some friends behind this, but by saying or stepping up and speaking out. And a lot of times people don't rather have a lot of friends and seem like that person to be around because they're not going to cause trouble. They're not going to question anything. They're just going to go with the flow. And that's so funny, but we'll get back to that. Go with the flow. Y'all be blessed. Y'all be back, and y'all be back. And it's Shug Avery, and I'm out.
Again, you telling me we cannot eat here?
So unfortunately, we do have a dress code. If you have some non-athletic shorts.
But that white kid out there can't eat here with his tennis shoes on and his athletic shirt.
So we allow tennis shoes, but not athletic shorts and t-shirts.
He has one. You telling me that's not an athletic shirt? Not that one, but you telling me that little boy who just ate here does not have on an athletic shirt?
I'm sorry. I would love for you to be able to come back and eat here.
So you telling me my son can't eat here because he has on athletic stuff?
No, just the shorts. It is part of our dress code. We try to enforce
So it's only his shorts? Only the shorts can't be athletic?
the shorts and the t-shirt, yes.
But the little boy has on an athletic, the little white kid that just sat out there had on an athletic tennis shoes and an athletic shirt.
I understand that you're upset. The gentleman's already explained it to you.
Okay.
That you're upset. If there's
No, it's not that I'm upset. The little boy out there had on athletic, you telling me it's no athletic wear. The little boy out there had on athletic tennis shoes and an athletic shirt. So why does he get to wear athletic wear and my son can't?
I would love for you to be able to come back. Do you live close enough for your son to change?
No, I don't. I just want to know why it's different for my son.
I understand how you feel.
I don't want you to sympathize with me. I just want you to tell me why it's different for my son. I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm just asking you why it's different for my son.
I understand.
Than that little kid that was out there with athletic tennis shoes